Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS European Challenger. We're moving into our next match. It's going to be the winner's match here in Group B. My name is Fear Dragon, and I am joined by In Control at the desk as we get ready to move into Serral versus uThermal. How you feeling about this match?
I'm hoping for a good one. You know, I'm always rooting for just a really competitive, awesome match. We're all big Serral fanboys, but it's kind of funny when you're a big fan of a Starcraft person. You also kind of enjoy it when they struggle or someone challenges them, right? Like, you don't want to just see them bop everybody. And uThermal seems to be that guy. It was just last Challenger season, I believe it was, that he kind of lost to Serral and then had some controversial comments about, he's like, I'm the guy that can do it, and we all laughed. But then you look up the stats and you're like, well, he kind of is. He's the guy that has beaten him before in smaller events, not really in WCS. Can he do that here now?
Well, we're going to find out in just a moment's time as we get ready to move on to Catalyst for game number 1. Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, top of the red Terran player from Team Liquid. He is uThermal.
Mark Schlappy.
Pretty good first series versus Hearthstone.
Oh, well, yeah. Pretty good for him, sure.
Yeah. Well, spawning up here in the top left, we have our blue Zerg player. He is the man to beat today. He is Serral.
Now, would you be impressed if... So Serral, let's say he wins. It's a great series, but he wins, right? And uThermal then goes on to face Hearthstone again. Yesterday I told you, the guy that initially loses that first one always wins the next one. Does Hearthstone beat uThermal in the decider match? Because that's a tall order, right?
You're already saying that uThermal just cannot beat Serral.
No, I very carefully actually just said that let's assume that he doesn't.
Okay.
Then I asked you a question about it.
You know, it's so difficult, I think, for me, because I feel like the way that Hearthstone won versus Denver even, it was like you and ZvP were talking about this before, where it felt like Denver was doing such a great job and Hearthstone was on the verge of losing that entire first game. And then the second game, Hearthstone sort of defending a massive speedling flood. But once you kind of defend it, it's kind of like, as long as you just keep walling off, like it's kind of defended at that point. So I'm a huge Hearthstone fan, so it makes me, it like pains me a little bit to say this, but I don't actually know that I feel like Hearthstone's playing super well today.
I agree. I was going to give you the first comment on it, but I actually agree with that. I think normally I'm the one that just kind of says it doesn't matter who it is. It's just like that's the way it goes. But Hearthstone did a nice job getting to a place to win in the first game against Denver. I guess that's what we give to him. But yeah, the second game was a gimme, and even the way he was able to win in that first game was a little bit of a reverse gimme, right? Like Denver should have been able to win that one, but just wasn't able to do it.
All right, well, talking about this game, this was a pool first opening from Serral. Maybe a little bit concerned about the proxy racks memes, but of course also nice if you can sneak him around that Reaper, go after that command center, maybe delay it a little bit. He's got 6 slings out, so this is enough to actually completely cancel the command center if he goes for it.
It's good to be Serral, isn't it? Wow, he actually...
Oh my god, that is not supposed... uThermal was, I think, focused on the Reaper or something.
No, he pulled the SCVs, man. He could have raised that. I'm not quite sure. I think he wanted to kill the Lings, I guess?
Reaper...
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. We would need a really smart Terran commentator or a really smart Zerg commentator, but we're just a couple of Protoss boys up here that like to make the Dark Templar.
That's accurate.
The Dark Templar. Who doesn't like to make those? Dumb people, right? Yeah. That's who. Everyone should make them. Good scouting, though.
These Lings are still being... I mean, we still had 4 workers pull off the line until just now. This is a lot of damage for these Lings.
Yeah, it is. I think you're always going to get the workers pulled off, I guess, if the depots don't go up, right? But... You know what? So I'm sorry. I'm being a bad co-commentator because I'm trying to... I think maybe the reason he lets the Lings up is that if you don't and they just turn around, because they're not going to fight the depot, they go kill the command center.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah. And I think that's what he was just saying. Well, okay, I'd rather lose mining time than have to restart the whole command center.
That's actually a very, very good point. Yeah. Comparatively, like, losing a bit of mining time versus the command center is definitely... You'd prefer to lose some of the mining time, I think.
I like the laid-back feeling of Challenger because I feel like if we're at WCS Montreal, I don't get time to do that. You know, I can't sit here and be like, here's what I think's happening. I got to be like, this is the greatest play ever, Tasteless. We're watching esports history. And he'll be like, yeah, Serral's micro's the perfect, and uThermal is just scared out of his Dutch wooden shoe boots, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've never seen play like this.
No. Anyway, Speedlings are going to clean up the Reaper out on the map, and that does mean that uThermal is fairly contained here. Now, the early Lings also scouted the fairly fast starport, if I'm not mistaken. Was it not a starport?
It was a starport, yeah. And you saw the tech lab also going down next to it, so should be expecting either Banshee or a Raven, but the Raven moving across the map, he's going to find out very soon that it's actually a Raven and a second Raven as well.
And I think they'll just park behind the mineral lines and occupy themselves with creating free little gun turrets. Turrets? I always say that word wrong. I used to say it with confidence, and then someone in the chat says, it sounds like he's saying turrets. And I'm like, oh no.
Well, you know, you could say that it's a turret on a tour, so it's a turret. It's touring on the other side of the map.
You're messing me up right now, Robbie. You're setting me back years. It's going to get worse. There's a turret!
Ooh, nice save there from Serral. Oh my god, he's actually going to get away with that drone. That is amazing.
Yeah, not even one. A lot of Zergs would be like, it's fine. You can have the one. Serral, everything's precious. But he does now know, and I think when you scout the starport and the tech lab, as you point out, Ruby, it's almost always going to be you default to a Raven because it's just so darn good. Like, it's not like this is the only thing it can do. That anti-armor missile is fantastic. The Dorito cannon, as it's belovedly called sometimes. And then, yeah, this mineral harass for right now is a fine way to spin that energy. The Raven, it's just so amazing. I still think it's one of the most underused things. Now, this Overseer is going to see double engineering bay, and it does see the transfer timing on the starport as well. That's just Serral, man. When you play against him, he's going to know everything you're doing at all times.
Yeah, he sees when the production comes down, which I think should be enough for him to realize, okay, yeah, third command center is also finished up at the front, even if he technically hasn't spotted it out.
Yeah.
Like the uThermal just going after those rocks, some of these Marines, cutting down on those different attack paths and getting himself geared up to defend a third.
And one thing to point out, by the way, because of the opening, no real map presence. So Terran spent a lot of time with that Reaper, paired up with 4 to 6, maybe 8 Hellions, fighting back creep tumors, keeping the queens honest, just making the Zerg alert of that early game. But because of the awkwardness and strangeness of the opening, Serral's been left to do this, which is not the craziest creep spread, but it's just going to keep going until the Marines and Medevacs show up. But that's always like a secondary fight against creep. That's not your primary way of doing it.
Yeah, and ooh, okay, Ling's starting it very close to surrounding some of these Hellions. But the Hellions get into a pretty decent spot. Yeah. They're kind of cornered there, but then the Marines and the Siege Tanks come forward, able to push them back. But yeah, to your point and what you were talking about with the creep spread, I think that uThermal's going to have this one kind of big opportunity when he moves out with his army, although he's leaving the Raven behind. Both of them.
I feel like it's just a miss. They'll come back. They're going to go kill creep. There have to be. There's no reason to leave him back here, but he's going to. And there's the scans, so maybe if they existed at all, I don't know. But here we go. And I do like this from uThermal. We're seeing like the duel of very strong European players. As you point out, he almost got those Hellions surrounded, but was able to pull them back and keep them. And then you can see that he's aware that Serral always likes to counterattack, so he is. Yeah, there they are. He's going to leave the Hellions behind because almost assuredly Lings are going to show up. The Ravens, it is like blocking my brain a little bit. I'm like, why?
All right, well, he is able to snipe off 1. 2 Queens go down. The Banelings on creep. Going to be a very dangerous proposition there. Has to leave a couple of Marines for dead, and the Siege Tank gets surrounded and killed off. There's kind of the backup support already gone there.
Yep. And it was kind of funny. He left the Marines behind specifically so that they trade out with Banelings, but Serral's just never going to give that kind of an easy thing to him. He actually just let the Lings kill him and pulled the Banelings back specifically. It's little mistakes that other Zergs make, not with Serral, our reigning champion. And now Serral's pushing up to 4 bases. He's also not taking that middle base, which a lot of Zergs do as well, and that's where we've seen people like Hero Marine, excuse me, do a good job of making that kind of the way he could potentially win a game. And Serral going to poke and prod, but behind this, it is going to be that Hydraling Baneling that he is always so wont to do.
Yep. And with +2 on the way for melee as well as armor upgrades, uThermal still just falling a little bit behind on that armor upgrade, but yeah, he's going to be starting that up not too far behind. Still though, it's like he's kind of set, like, has there really ever been a time that uThermal's really been able to put on any kind of real pressure? There was actually the most he's really been able to put on, because even the Reaper didn't get too much done. It was literally the auto turret harassment, which forced a Spore Crawler. It didn't even get a drone.
Right. I mean, it's just impressive and amazing. But he's got to represent it at least, and he knows that. It's an uphill battle here, but you cannot just let Serral reign and run around. So he is going to try and kind of get him to focus over here. We see a consolidation of the army, I believe. The left side was fighting a creep tumor, but now it's coming over to the main force here. Army supply is, it's a fraction higher for liquid thermi here.
Okay.
That's a good way to do it. Wow.
Hey, it's actually going to catch quite a few of these Lings that are trying to go for this big wrap around.
Who?
I kind of feel like uThermal got the better end of that.
Yeah, but they're just, I mean, it's just impressive because it looked like that was exactly what was left behind, but Serral just saw into it and said, no, I'll get your Hellbats, I'll weaken these Marines. You're right, I think it was still pretty good for uThermal, and of course the worst case scenario is there's nothing there and the Lings run into a mineral line or a depot wall. But it's just impressive again that even what seems to be a mistake for Serral ends up being like kind of even. And it's like, that's fine for him.
It definitely went a little bit better than I thought it was going to go with the Hellbats there, but all right, here we go. Thermal's trying to push further onto creep, and if he can get a little bit further, he's going to finally be able to go after that center base you're talking about. Anti-armor missiles covering a couple of these banelings is going to be able to snipe them off very, very quickly thanks to it.
Yeah. Love this patience so far from Serral. He's got a full surround already. He's in position to do it. But he's just waiting. He's saying, you're not hitting anything critical just yet. You want to poke and prod at some creep? That's fine. As time goes on, I will get the last 15 supply. Now, here we go. The Hydra's going to poke forward. Nope, they're going to push back here.
But there's just not that many Marines. Yeah, there's just not that many Marines that far forward, and now he moves forward on top of the entire army uThermal. A lot of Marines actually going to be backing this up. Anti-armor missile going down on top of those Hydras. Once the Banelings are gone, these Marines can get some work done.
Well, they're going to try. It's off creep that they're safe to try and go ahead and do that. And then one of the most impressive parts about Serral, by the way, is that if he overcommits and fights off creep there, he probably loses. But he also always has a second or third wave of Banelings. It's that moment where a lot of Zerg's like, here's everything. And then they're not making Banelings behind that. So yeah, it's going to be Hydras and Lings. But Marines and Medevacs can snowball against that. Now, when you constantly are making waves of Banelings, you don't get that advantage as a Terran player. It's just amazing to see that from Serral.
Oh my god, Serral has some sick sense, just sending the Hydras immediately over to the far left. I don't think that there was any creep or anything that walked over, but he gets a snipe off on that medevac full of Marines. I mean, that is what I think oftentimes uThermal relies on, is that kind of multi-pronged harassment to pull himself into these games.
Well, anybody, right? I mean,
yeah.
That would be the way the Terran does get back into it, but against Serral, you have to just outplay him and outfight him. And it just doesn't seem to be happening for too many people.
Oh
right
my god!
Now.
It tries to set up the Liberator. There's already a spore.
How many spore callers are there? Show me that.
There's
2.
4.
Oh, there's 4. Okay. Well, there's one of the 4, perfectly placed.
Well, +3 armor on the way for Serral since he's finished up that hive, and he's also got adrenal glands getting close to finishing up. This is becoming more and more difficult to actually get too much done, but he does find an angle for that Liberator. Moves it back and forth. Going to force the Spore Caller to burrow in the wrong position.
Well, it becomes the wrong position. I guess.
Yeah. He makes it wrong.
Yeah. Something like that. And it does end up dying, but it gets 7 drones for itself. Now, tip of the hat here to Mr. uThermal as well. He's trying to get him to engage off creep, and if he's not going to do that, then he's going to pick off the creep tumors and find a future fight for himself. Now, here comes the rolling tide of Zerg, but on the left side, we have a huge Ling counterattack that is going to be defended. Where's that tank hitting from? Oh, okay. 3 screens away. There
I still don't see it.
Yeah, he pops in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the Ling's going to be able to get some damage on over here, but the Marines will eventually be able to clean this up. At the same time, uThermal says, okay, this is the time I move forward with Marines.
Geez.
Oh no, the blinding clouds covering all those siege tanks, and it is just, there's not a whole lot left here for uThermal. A lot of siege tanks going very far back, though.
Yeah, and it looks like Serral, he probably could have cleaned them up as well, but it would have been a little bit more of a costly battle than he's excited about doing, so he just pulls back. But this is, again, another kind of textbook Serral thing. He pokes and prods with the Lings all game long. When he gets your attention over there, when there's not just static defenses or, you know, tanks and Marines in place to do it without any control, and you look away, that's exactly when the full surround comes in. So here we go again at the natural, a few Lings on top of that. Now, one thing to note, there's just the one Queen, I think, over here that's trying to rebuild this creep. You know, she's doing it, but if you stop her, you're on top of that 5th base.
I want to agree with you there, Jeff, but oh my god, he's already got so many creep tumors down from one Queen. But here we go. Another couple of blinding clouds come down. Not getting too many of the siege tanks this time, though, so a lot of them actually getting some good shots off.
Tanks with a wonderful spread there. The blinding cloud's not nearly as effective when that's going on. The problem is it's the numbers game right now. Keep in mind, uThermal's on 4 bases technically, but he's been losing a lot to this counterattack. Now, as I say that, it's just 58 workers, so for a Terran, that's not the worst thing in the world. It's just that Serral has been doing such a good job of continuing to expand beyond that, that we're getting to 3-3 tech on the upgrades, we're getting to Hive. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and got the continued creep spread, even just missing that last tumor, and now the Queen's just going to start respraying the creep. uThermal has to back up a little bit because there's still a couple of Lings that are sitting as natural they just know about, but there's also this massive attack over here. He has to come deal with this. So now, even as Serral, I mean, even if Serral didn't get as good of a trade as he did right here, he's still buying himself space and time to respread that creep and take better engagements again.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's getting that, but he also just got 3 tanks.
Yeah, he got a lot.
2 are being made at a time, but if you keep that tank count low, then the 2 or 4 tanks is just not an issue, whereas it could be 8 or 10, right? And there's another tank dying as well. And to your point, the issues grow. So now ultras are starting to come out. The creep spread is pushing back into the middle of the map, and uThermal has, or excuse me, Serral is going up to 6 bases. That left base, the 6th one, is not even being challenged. One of the things you mentioned earlier is that when you pick off a medevac or 2 as well, the Terran stops feeling comfortable even trying it. uThermal hasn't really gone for a drop in most of this game because it just hasn't done anything for him.
Only 4 medevacs out on the map, and this is 3 of them, and look at the energy on them. uThermal has tried to be aggressive, not necessarily as much with the drops, but just pushing in at the front, continuously stimming, running away from those banelings, and it hasn't gotten him far enough into Serral's territory. That left-hand base, like you said, still, even though the creep spread is not as far out reaching on this side, it's still pretty safe right now.
I think Serral is realizing that the end game is approaching in his favor. He's got the Vipers, he's got the Banelings, Ultras coming out, upgrades are finishing up. There's not much else for him to do. At some point or another, he's going to have to come at uThermal with a big attack. It will be off creep, but he's just crafted such a game for himself that...
Okay.
Thank goodness it was just a few Banelings, because I was about to be like, he's just playing so, and then all the Banelings just hit the rocks.
Even Serral can fall victim to the caster curse, I guess.
It's when you hit that X. Hit the X on the Baneling. That's when you feel real silly. But here we go. Right side being attacked by some Banelings and Ultras waddling forward. That's not a planetary. That's a relocated main base. And this base is being dislodged a little bit. Now here comes the main thrust of the army up on top of this. And that's where he's got to get some pretty big victories.
Yeah, a lot of Viper pulls, pulling out all those siege tanks, killing them off. The Ultra on the bottom side is going to take care of that. Blinding Cloud turns everything around, though.
Jeez.
Once again, as soon as you think you catch Serral, it just goes poorly.
I'm like, this is looking one spell, step forward, slam. Banelings just destroy. An army supply up for Serral. He doesn't have much of a bank, and that would be because he's making 18 Banelings. Somehow he thinks he needs 4 more drones. He's going to be pushing up almost under, I mean, just under 90 drones.
Well, he's got the base count to actually, I guess, kind of make that work. It looks like actually a hatchery was picked off over here on the top center side, so.
You know what? I think it was Vipered. Was it Vipered? Did they suck it to death?
The Vipers were the only units I saw running away from there.
Did they get a little overzealous?
I'm not gonna lie, I saw that hatchery a little lower in health. I'm like, have I been missing drops? Have I been missing drops from uThermal?
So.
Yeah.
Well, on the right side here, Banelings on eradication protocol.
Oh, Lord.
They're not going to go after the... Oh, okay, well, just when I say they're not going to. And even off creep, finding some connections, it's a 50 supply advantage. Now, there is a drop on the left side over here, dislodging.
But notice even none of the drones have actually died over here as well. They're actually going to go start back to mining, but the Lings are already here to back up and support. The drop goes, tries to go over the main base, and then immediately runs into the Hydras because he sees a Spore Crawler there and tries to dart right.
Yeah.
Thermal trying to push in once again through that center base location, but this is... It's just, he has never been able to make the damage happen or the push far enough forward before Serral is able to dislodge it. GG.
Yeah, there's some Ling harass at that 6 o'clock base, and it was just too much for uThermal to keep going. He just kept, every time he was out on the map, he's having to remake the depots. He's losing a handful of SCVs. Any mistake he makes is just aggravated and looks so bad, right? Like the few times Banelings connected with him, it was just too costly because of all the other harass that he was enduring the entire time. It's just so fun to watch Serral play.
I think it's like the small things again, all the little persistence that makes and exacerbates all those problems like you were saying, where it's like, we were talking about this before, or I was mentioning it, where it's uThermal tries to get some damage done and tries to push forward, and then Serral finds an opportunity and says, oh, actually, you're a little bit weak to this counterattack. So then he has to pull his army back a little bit. But now that he pulls his army back, it's not just that he's losing workers. It's also the creep spread and all the progress he has been making for the past 45 seconds to a minute and a half. It's just gone. The creep is back. He can't push into that center base anymore. And just everything is reset again.
You know what, though, and as much time as we spent talking about how good Serral played there, it was a great effort by uThermal. Yeah. The tough thing is it does comes off as sounding patronizing almost, because uThermal's not a guy that you typically like pat on the back and be like, good effort, that was really nice. He's a guy that's used to, I mean, this is a tournament-winning Terran who has led the pack for Terrans in Europe for a long time. He's a very good player. We're living in a special time where someone has ascended. They're playing at a level that GSL vs. the World just concluded, and nobody could match that, right? Like, we had a great final series with stats, so I guess you could say that he came close.
Yeah.
But otherwise, against Maru, we bopped him. I mean, we don't need to rehash all of history. The point is, nicely tried by uThermal, but he's facing a wall.
Yeah, and again, it's really hard to move away from just, I guess, the clear narrative that Serral is the player to beat, and it's still literally about not beating Serral in a series, it's about beating him on a map. That is still one of those things where you say, well, yeah, that was a really, really impressive series from that player. They took a map off of Serral. It's still at that point.
It actually is. Normally, the contrarian in me hears you say it. I'm like, no, it's not like that. But it is. Even last Challenger season, we were talking about how Hero Marine took a game off of Serral, and it was on that map, actually. And it was like, wow.
Or Namshar really took a game off of Serral, and it was like, wow, this is really impressive.
Yeah, no, I'm getting the dates locked. No, you're right about Namshar. I was trying to. Was Hero Marine the first season?
Hero Marine was actually the first season, I think. No, he might have been the second season.
See, I think you're falling for my trap. Like, that's what Roddy does to a broadcast. He knows these dates like this, and then I'm like, is it though? And then you're like, is it though? And now we're both.
You just have one of those voices. Sure. I just trust you.
Well, now you know what you're doing wrong, right? Never trust me.
Well, we're hopping onto a map that a lot of Terrans do tend to like, especially versus Zerg players. It's going to be 16-bit for game number 2. We'll see how things shake up on this map. The funny thing is, I've actually seen a lot, like, this has happened even in best of 3s, best of 5s, etc. Serral just doesn't seem to veto this map, whereas I feel like there are a lot of Zerg players that tend to like vetoing this. So I'm always interested, and I wonder what Serral's thoughts are on this map. But all right. We're going to be moving into the bottom left-hand side of the map. Top of the red Terran player, once again, it is Team Liquid's uThermal. And his opponent spawning up in the top right-hand side of the map, arguably the best player in the world right now. He is Serral.
Why is it that Terrans like this map so much, Mr. Fear Dragon?
Well, typically, you end up seeing a lot of things where Zerg players don't really enjoy defending that kind of in-base natural expansion, so it's just kind of drop heaven if the Zerg player ever takes it. If they don't take it, actually the funny thing that happens is that the Terran players still just drop there, but they just sort of have it as a nice place to unload their drop and then go over to the main base, be annoying. But even beyond that, I think it's just the fact that you have very easy 3-base setup where you don't have to worry about lots of Ling run bys to the natural and the third. Yeah. Just kind of defending your third base, your fourth base not even that far off. It's just, I think the flow of the game goes really nice for the Terran.
I could see that. I could see that being an issue. Drop play, getting strong there. It'll be fun to see how Serral handles it, because I don't disagree with anything you said. And his signature stuff, not that you can put him on one thing that he does, but he's just so good about poking and prodding with those Lings, finding openings.
Yep.
So it will be the fourth base where I find that will get obviously opened up here. The pocket expansion, if you're getting Ling harassed there, then something pretty weird started to happen.
Yeah.
And the third base can be walled in very safely, and that's of course where usually you macro out your units. But it's that fourth base where it does get opened up a little bit, even if you take that one or the one above the third. Both of those offer some entry points, if you will. So I feel like if we get to that stage, that's where uThermal will be tested.
Okay, I'm trying to think about how uThermal opened up that last game. I mean, there was the kind of weird stuff or the weirdness that came with the double Raven opening where he tried to get some damage done, didn't really work out, and also didn't really... I mean, the one thing I will say that he did use the Ravens effectively for was those anti-armor missiles actually helped out quite a bit in kind of pushing forward, but I still wouldn't hate if he went for even just something more typical like a Hellion Banshee opening, something else that allows him to put a little more direct pressure on Serral.
I think you're a nice, well, I know you're a nicer guy than me, so I'll just come out and say it, but I actually did not find the Raven play very good at all. He tried one wave of auto turrets, and they didn't really pan out. Abandoned that, forgot about the Ravens for a while, and then fired one anti-armor missile each. that then also didn't do much, and then threw them into a wave of Hydras, and that was the end of the Raven legacy. And I think that they can do a lot more, and I think what you're talking about is what we were kind of expecting from uThermal. That anti-armor missile can be huge.
Serral, he almost got the Reaper there. That was actually really cute. He pulls the Queen back a little bit, so it doesn't auto-attack the Reaper before it moves up, but then he also moves the Lings in to try and surround the Reaper.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite get the Reaper, but still, very, very cool play.
It's buying time for Speed to finish here. And there's nowhere for this Reaper to go after Speed does finish, unless it can squeeze by these Lings.
You know, if it was for anyone except for Serral, I'd say, you know, uThermal's like the one guy I trust to maybe get that Reaper out. Oh my god. So close.
That leap for freedom. He's like, I'm free! No. Darn it. But it's okay. It scouts the third. It sees, you know, not an incredible number of Lings, but at this stage, he says it's not Serral that's going to mix it up. It's not getting weird just yet. And that's about what you should hope for from the Reaper. Obviously, if it gets a drone or two or something weird, then that's really cool.
We are going to be seeing an armory come down alongside the Hellions moving across the map, with more Hellions being made and a Banshee follow-up, or at least...
Medevac out there, which I think had maybe a Widow Mine in it.
Ooh.
Or what is that,
it has 2 Marines.
Well,
but I mean,
that's not normal.
Well, I mean, that's still nice because you can heal up the Hellbats, but then you can also just kill off an Overlord or 2, which is kind of nice.
Robbie, come on. That's what you think those 2 Marines are there for?
No, they're not there to hunt Overlords.
Okay. So what are we doing?
All right, well, we're going after the Queens and the Lings. Queen's actually taking quite a bit of damage here. uThermal, he needs to keep that medevac alive, though. That's a lot of the sustainability for these Hellbats, and he's doing a decent job of it so far, but that medevac is going to end up falling. He's on top of the mineral line, though, and whoa!
Oh, jeez.
Serral pulls his drones actually pretty late.
Only 6 died. We're kind of holding our breath there. Look how much patience from Serral, though. He's waiting. He can't fight on the top of this ramp. He's letting the Queens, again, as you said, kind of weather in. Oh my god, he tried it. That's crazy. Now he gets up the ramp. The Queen's spreading out so that AoE damage doesn't get too crazy. Queen's looking for a spot to get in there. But
this is really good damage for uThermal.
Oh, heck yeah, it is, man.
I mean, even if these Hellbats now get cleaned up and they don't get on top of the mineral line, they don't kill too many drones, and they are killing drones already, killing off that many Queens as early on is really, really good damage. Oh my god.
8 more die? Is that 8 in total, or is...
No, it's more than 8 now. It's 14.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Now the Banshee comes forward, and guess what? The Queens are all softened up from earlier, so the Banshee is already going to be able to kill off 2 Queens there. Gonna go after a couple of these Lings to try and save the remaining Hellbats, but he has been able to, you know, the surprising thing is Serral's done a great job of just continuing to mine throughout all of this.
Well, the fact that he's alive is impressive, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, it's come at a huge, huge cost. He doesn't actually have a whole lot else going on right now.
No. No, I'm kind of holding my breath here a little bit, seeing if Serral can continue to find a way out of this. He's gonna get a good
Is that the last Queen? There's 1 Queen left.
It's never the last Queen, man.
No, there's only 1 more Queen being made right now, so.
But she'll have a twin. Look, she's about to be born.
That's true. Another Banshee over here, though. 2 Banshees remaining, and there is a Spore Caller over by the 3rd, but oh man, uThermal is actually just going to work. He can't get that hatchery before the Queens come down.
Can he, though? No, he can't.
No.
What?
That's... Queen's finding the Banshee. There is a Spore Caller. Oh, I actually like that. You brought the Spore Caller over from the main with the creep spread. Actually, yeah, there were 2 Spore Callers in the main because this has been such a nutty game.
Hellions down there. Queen's getting low, but even when you kill the Banshee, you're taking damage on the Queens, which is your main way of tanking.
He gets out of range of the Spore Caller as well. Another Spore Caller is about to finish up, so that Banshee will eventually maybe suffer some damage here from the Spore and get taken out. It does get taken out. Other Banshee does manage to survive. The Queens, more Queens have been taken out during all this. I really want to take a quick look, as much as there is all this stuff happening, what is uThermal up to behind all this? Because I want to see how heavily has he invested into that attack.
He's okay. He's got a...
Yeah. I'm trying to judge it right now, so I don't even know.
Got the 3rd CC on the way. I guess one of the issues you would look to is he's got +1 attack coming in. Does he have a 2nd eBay?
Yeah, he does have a 2nd engineer.
All right. Well, then I would say he's in pretty darn good shape.
Yep, starting up those 1-1 upgrades, not too far behind Serral, but with the 3rd base finished up, and the fact that Serral's only now getting up a Baneling Nest, he doesn't have a lair, he doesn't have... Actually, no, he did finish up a lair. Wow, he got up a lair during all of that.
No, but to build off your point that I think you were trying to get to is it's a little bit hard. It's stunted town for Serral a little bit. This is not normally where he'd be, and I would say he's behind. And if people want to try and challenge me on that, then fair be it, do it. But not so far behind that it's like laughable. We're like, come on, Serral, just get out of the game. I know you've never seen a loss screen, but he's equal bases. Behind in Army quite a bit, only a little bit ahead in Workers. It's looking rough.
Okay, another drop going to be moving forward. I think actually the Spore Caller is on the far backside, and another one over here, because so many Spore Callers were made during all of that. He still has 5 to work with, I guess, to help push back medevac drops.
The luxuries of the early defense, I suppose.
But hey, if uThermal can get one more scan down and kill off some of these active creep tumors, that would be a huge help, because he's already stunted a lot of that creep spread, killing off that many queens. How many queens even died? 10 queens.
10
wow.
queens.
Killing off that 4th. Oh, no cancel.
He does kill it, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's because his attention was killing off that tank. But I'll tell you what, a tank for several creep tumors and a hatchery, yeah, you'll take that as a Terran.
Yeah, not even just several creep tumors. That was every creep tumor, I think, outside of the 3rd base.
It's a lot. And now, what does Serral do? It's going to be that Spire with the melee upgrades. I really like this. Fear Dragon did a great job kind of breaking down why this map is good for Terran earlier. And I feel like the Zerg, it's really hard to see Ravagers work here. Of course, Ravagers are good. You can make them work anywhere, I guess. But this would be the map where you don't do it. Ling, Muta, Baneling, very fast, good counterattack options, can clamp down on the 4th, and shuts down those drops that you talked a lot about.
A lot of active creep tumors starting to go down there. uThermal gonna have to pull back to the rest of his army off of creep as he sees some of those Banelings. How are there already so many creep tumors? Serral is just relentless with that queen production.
Well, you kill 10 queens and 20 more take their place.
Yeah. We're watching Serral, not Hydra.
Just 5, but that's a lot.
Yeah, there's still a decent number, and there's a lot of Banelings being made right now. Spire about to finish up as well, so Serral, oh my god.
The flank, beautiful, he gets a medevac. And you talked about this earlier, he's like, I'm gonna go drop your 3rd, but there's actually 2 Spore Crawlers there, and you know what, they wouldn't shut the drop down, but it makes it a one-way trip, and if all of a sudden Lings and Banelings show up and you want to pick up, you can't, you're just dead. How does he do it?
I really don't know how Serral does this, where he has more than enough Banelings to defend all of this, pushes all that stuff back, has invested into so many of those early spores, and gets up the queens, and still had around 800 gas for the mutas during all this.
Hold on, he's still down, right? I think Serral is still in a lot of trouble here. His signature counterattack stuff has not been able to go on at all. So uThermal is taking a 4th base, and now he's going to go ahead and kill this hatchery as well, which then again puts Serral back to 3 bases. And I would say this is the furthest behind that Serral's been all game long.
All right, Muta's gonna find the SCV build in the command center right before it completes, so that's gonna be able to delay that a little bit. Serral getting some counter damage done. The missile turrets starting to go up. There is one already completed, although some of the other ones are getting picked off.
Lings try to jump on top, but they're mostly fighting tanks, so it's nice to kill the tanks, but against the composition that Serral is putting out there, it's not as big of a deal. Basically, the second you see Mutas, you don't keep making tanks, you start making things like Thors and Widowmines. If Serral can kill this army out on the map, that would be a pretty big boost. And he's going to try and go for it. The Baneling's waddling forward, but they are off creep, so they're exchanging most of their lives for kited Marines.
Wow.
Nah, not today. And uThermal does take this map off of our champion.
Well done, uThermal.
Really well done.
You know, the other kind of thing we have to mention, Jeff, is that this is not only the winner's match, so whoever wins this moves on. You don't have to like rematch versus the person in like a decider match or anything. This is also just a best of 3. If uThermal finds another way to just get one win off of Serral, he moves out first in the group, and dare I say, we could actually potentially have Serral move out 2nd.
That'd be pretty amazing. Be a minor humbling moment. Because, of course, both 1st and 2nd do go to the playoffs, so it's not like it's a rank that gets like locked in forever. But
and every other person in every other group that's 1st place would be like, really? Really?
Oh,
so my reward for getting out 1st in my group is I get Serral in the 1st round?
It does throw things a little bit. It makes those guys pretty sad. But, you know, Fear Dragon, you talked about this is a good map for Terran. I do like the choice from uThermal to bust out the strategy that he did. He microed it really well. The follow-up was really strong as well. It's very easy to get ahead like that and then be like, well, I'm not sure where to go from here, but uThermal knows very much so where to go from there. And I don't look at Serral's play and say he made any one big mistake. It's just that that timing attack did so much damage. Maybe there was like 2 fights with the Lings where he tried to go up the ramp one time. The drones got pulled a little bit late. It's like those 2 small mistakes. With an all-in like that, you put the whole game on those choices, and you can win, even against a guy like Serral. Pretty cool.
All right. Well, taking a look at our next map, this is another interesting one because I know I haven't heard too many Terrans talk about this map in like the later part of the season, but in the earlier part of the season, I know a lot of Terrans are citing this as another map that they really enjoyed. It was like the 2 maps that Terran players would say, yeah, I really like playing versus Zerg on 16-bit and Redshift. Redshift is going to be our next map.
Well, there you go. Is that going to be enough? Has uThermal gotten the golden path of maps on its way to beat
No, Jeff.
Serral?
The gold is always a bait.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, your dad joke. Nailed it there. I'm stunned. Wait, I mean, here's the thing. I wish we had, we could pull up this stat, but when's the last time Serral lost to a non-Korean? In a tournament best of 3, at least.
I knew this because I looked this up like 4 times when I was watching GSL vs. the World, but it's been a bit. It's been a good bit.
Could it be to this guy right here, the red Terran, uThermal? Max Slappy.
And his opponent's flying down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map. The blue Zerg player from Team Ents. He is Serral. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Last season, there was kind of the somewhat infamous tweet from uThermal saying, yeah, I think I thought I really had a really good chance versus Serral, and I thought I was going to be able to beat him. And a lot of that was because these guys actually do have a pretty even win record against each other. In fact, even after the last time they played, which was that Challenger season, they're still sitting at 19-19 in series score.
Yeah.
A lot of those are kind of older games, but uThermal hasn't fared that poorly versus them in the past.
Yep, I remember, because I laughed and I kind of made a show of like, yeah, what a silly thing to say, but then people were tweeting me like, no, look here, and then here's where they fought in ladder, and uThermal took a couple games there too. It's real. It's definitely possible, and after that last game, you can kind of see why.
Yeah.
And that would be, if uThermal was able to take this game, man, what a day for him, because he made Hearthstone look pretty bad, and then Hearthstone bounces back against Denver. And then even in his loss to Serral in that first game, he pushed Serral to the limit. So it's not like he got destroyed or something like that. It's been just great play from uThermal, which makes me excited for Montreal.
No kidding. I'm just excited for this game right now. This Redshift can be a very, very weird map. We're talking about that gold. As a lot of people like to say, the gold base is always a bait. Neither of these players are going to be going for it at least immediately. We might see Serral. I've seen Serral go for that gold actually a fair number of times. I think it's usually versus Protoss, though, and yeah, he's not going to do it versus a Terran.
And Ravi, our wonderful production, let us know that the last time that Serral lost to a foreigner was at IEM Pyeongchang to Scarlet.
Yeah.
How many months?
Crazy. That was in February.
Jeez Louise, are you serious?
Yeah.
Man, it's like, when's the last time In Control lost to a foreigner? It's like, well, it'd be the last time we played one. But for Serral, we're like, I remember this. It was in early February in Korea. No, anyways.
That is pretty absurd how long it's been. And that's in a best of 3 plus at least. I know that he did lose a map to uThermal actually in a People Images King of the Hill, but that was their best of 1, so we're saying best of 3s plus.
Yes, we're saying that.
For all the technical people out there, they're going to be like, actually. Well, Starport is going to be popping on up next
doing the same thing.
Does he have an armory? I don't think so. I don't think so yet.
Do you start it now? I don't know.
I think he started when he had 4 Hellions, so maybe he's going to start it in a little bit.
No. I don't know.
I think this...
It's a Liberator. Nah.
Oh, okay,
no medevac for the 2 Marines, the Overlord Hunters.
Interesting. All right. He's going to go... I guess, okay, yeah, you swap the Tech Lab on after you built the Liberator, I guess. Well, Reaper going to move forward, confirm 3rd base.
That Roach Warren, though. I think Serral's respecting the possibility of Hellbats showing up. I think so.
well, after that last game, I guess it's not a bad thing to do.
He's like, let's not let that happen again.
Yeah, but now he sees the starport does not have that tech lab, so he knows at least it's not going to be any kind of Banshee play come out immediately.
But he sees a reactored factory, and he sees an empty starport, which he could have assumed is a medevac, as he's making 5 roaches here.
Oh, okay.
But does Serral turn those 5 roaches into Ravagers and just go end the game? Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. We'll have to find out, Jeff. I don't have all the answers.
Right? Well, I'm gonna ask you all these questions, and I like your non-committal.
Liberator sieges on up inside that main base. Is going to be able to snag 2 drone kills. Yeah, not too bad. And then also cancels some of the larva that was building. Yep, 3 drone kills. Not amazing damage, but gets something done for his troubles. Oh, we got double armory behind this, though. We're going to go straight up into that mech.
All right, on redshift, so you can take that gold base, lock it down tanks, maybe. There's a great 3rd and 4th base option outside of your natural. Well, I mean, it becomes 4th and 5th if you take the gold. But anyways, the point is you can kind of lock down your corner of the map. And then because it's a medium-sized map, you don't have to go too far to really start threatening those Zerg expansions.
Well, we had a decent number of drones being made after some of those roaches were made, and just got kind of a little bit of both. 2 more roaches and 5 drones on the way. So Serral's playing very middle of the road right now. And the kind of funny thing is when you're going for that mech composition, sure, there might be some Hellions running around the map, but you're not really committing to a heavy attack super early on. So Roach is not going to find too much value. And they might have a hard time actually finding too much value even being aggressive right now.
You know, I can kind of feel Serral's not totally sure where this game is right now. He's building some spore crawlers. He's got those roaches, like you said, kind of hunting around. There's the double evo. There's no overseer making its way through the base. I think he felt comfortable with the single overlord. He didn't get overlord speed or anything like that. So there's the next overseer. So this will be kind of the first that he starts to know what's really going on. But that's quite late. It's not normal for Serral. So Serral playing a little bit overly safe because of perhaps the stun that happened in game 2. But good news for him is that if you are facing mech, you do want the composition, at least the beginnings of what you're showing here. He's got range attack and carapace going up.
All right, and this is actually really cute though. He just has the exact same number of Hellions as he had in the super early stage of the game, so this isn't going to seem that odd or like, oh, my opponent's still making Hellions. It seems like this is going to be mech. He has left a lot of those other Hellions, I think, way back at home.
Good point. And just now, here we go. So he sees it. He knows, of course. And let's look at that production tab and see if anything changes too dramatically. It's still just more drones. I guess you add the Hydra and maybe make your way towards Hive for Vipers. That seems to be one of the ways he would like to handle this. You don't want to make too much of a deal, though. You don't want to, like, sacrifice all econ and get towards it right now, perhaps. No, never mind. Shut up, Jeff.
Well, I mean, it's not really sacrificing too much econ to just get up an infestation, but...
Yeah. And no Hydra yet, right? It is just
no Hydra.
Okay.
Just going straight up to that for now. But Roach is going to be moving across the map. They do not have roach speed for another 10 seconds, but once they do, they can maybe dart in over here. There's a single siege tank, but there's the full wall off. Even got a couple of Hellions that act as a bit of spotters. And a couple of roaches on the left-hand side as well. Oh, man. I'm sure he wished that these roaches could have, like, an easy way to just jump over those mineral patches.
That would be cool. I'm sure he would like that. I'm sure everyone else would be a little bit... They'd have their opinions, I suppose. It is going to be Spire, by the way. And the infestation pit is finished. Hive has not started just yet, but that's not the most alarming thing in the whole world.
Just really fast Greater Spire?
I'm almost thinking Mutas, my man. I mean, yeah, it is going to be... Oh, wow, drop. Okay, drop a Lords. And there's the Hive.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he just wants to use a bunch of these roaches that he's made, because he skipped the Hydras, right? So he's just going to use a bunch of roaches, drop Overlords to try and buy time while he's getting up that Hive in the Greater, and then goes for a really quick Greater Spire versus a mech composition that's been too busy dealing with the roaches to worry about air.
I think you could be right. And I don't think it's going to be Mutas. I think I was incorrect on that. The Hive and Spire timing are pretty close to each other. Some semblance of an army out there. And like you said, no Hydras, so it is going to be like a really quick Greater Spire. But this drop, which by the way almost got spotted, but then was seen by the tower, is going to go fully undetected, and there's an army amassing outside the third on the right side. So this is that multi-prong attack.
Yeah, and uThermal knows about this army coming to the Liberator, so he re-sieges up some of his siege tanks over on that far right, pushes that army back, but there's not a whole lot inside that main base. A couple of Hellions, not going to be enough. Siege tank getting rallied out, really needs to turn around. Yeah.
The good news is, for uThermal, he's got a number of Liberators, and because there is no Hydras, they just need to siege up, and they will clean up whatever the heck is underneath that circle of liberation. So this attack that was pretty scary picks off one tech building and does pull back units, but let's be honest here. uThermal defends the right side and takes very little damage inside the main. Now the big win here for Serral is he's winning and buying some time for himself to get to Broodlords, because there's just a few Vikings out right now. And of course the Liberators are okay, but not a great answer for Broodlords.
Oh, a lot of these Roaches getting very aggressive over at that front area, as he knows that a lot of the siege tanks were pulled back into the main base or are sitting over on that far right-hand side. Drop Overlords do manage to unload a couple of those Roaches into a safer spot so they can escape out of here.
This is impressive stuff. He's not getting mega damage done, but he's just occupying so much of uThermal's attention that he's getting towards that critical tech like we talked about. But the big thing is behind this, he's taking a 5th base. Ravi's showing it beautifully as our observer. It's being saturated. He's putting to use his 76 drones. He also scales up with drones really nicely. He's adding continuous drones in. And we saw this last game too, where, you know, maybe 85, 87 is a little high, but he doesn't like build them in 20 blocks. He builds them at 4 or 5 at a time. So he's very safe about it the entire time as well.
Yeah, uThermal going to be trying to grab that 4th base. Now he scans and sees, oh lord, that creep is getting awfully close to that 4th base location. Oh man, he's going to actually, he sees the army is moving on the right-hand side, so he's going to actually miss that creep.
Well, creep or not, I just love that he's not willing to engage directly into the mech. He says, no, we'll go fight over here. You've got a few tanks I'm going to clean up, and when you move your whole army to defend this, that's when my Broodlords are going to start to show up, or not. I'll lose all my Corruptors here.
Corruptors, yeah, just directly engaging. I guess it's okay because there's really not that many Vikings over here, and even the Liberators are getting taken out pretty quickly. So now the Thor shows up, so he backs up with those Corruptors, but the Roaches and Ravagers have found quite a bit of damage on their own.
And that's the hardest part about mech, is when it gets up and starts moving around. You see a few tanks get picked up, and that's a pretty big loss. Now another swath of units are making their way to that 4th base in the middle of the map. Is that a planetary?
No, it's not anything right now. It's just a regular old command center. Vikings gonna, he's actually gonna, yeah. I guess with the Liberators also showing up there. Makes sense.
I think there's a Thor back there too, yeah. So he's gonna have to dislodge. But even in that straight up fight, like you pointed out, Ravi, it's kind of cool because, no, there's no Broodlords just yet, but the Viking count's not getting to critical mass yet. Well, hang on, here's the big fight. The tanks are uninsulated.
Oh boy. A lot of that army for uThermal goes down, and remember, this is all off the back of the fact that Serral can go into the Broodlord tech. He already has a greater spire, so even these softened up Corruptors that are almost dead, morph them into some Broodlords, and hey, you got a really good situation.
You sure do. And then what's kind of cool about that is because it is such a scary prospect, when you remax on 24 more Roaches, and the Terran army's moving out because it's like, hey, I think you're building Broodlords, and I got to strike right now. But it's a maxed out Roach Ravager army that shows up. You've never seen a Satyr Terran.
All right, Corrosive Bile is going to buy a little bit of time, but how long is it going to take for uThermal to make any real progress here? To move through all of this creep, and just, you don't want to move in blindly without the creep actually being taken care of, so you got to slow it down, but he does not have time on his side.
That's an orbital. I don't know how much longer the game will go, but that's seems like a pretty big mistake to me. That needed to be a planetary. Almost assuredly so. I mean, I guess that's where he planned on rallying his army, but every time he moves out, you see Roaches be like, oh, that's an orbital. We're going to be over there all game long.
Yeah, I'm actually almost surprised because in light of what you were kind of saying, that he doesn't just push along the slightly further left-hand side so that he does have
a big fight in the middle
coverage.
And here we go. The Corrosive Biles, like you said, trying to do what they can, but actually it is Serral that's getting pushed back here.
No, there's only, the 6 Broodlords out now. There's only 1 Corruptor, and even just this number of Vikings, if they can dodge out of the way of these Queens.
I think the Broodlords shot the hatchery to make Broodlings to go in on the tanks.
No.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, the Broodlords are doing some pretty good damage to the ground army, but the Vikings, they're actually working their way through them. It's really about, I think, the ground army for Serral that's actually winning out more than anything else.
uThermal falling behind in supply, just only holding on to that 4th base right now, but he's actually still got that base of tanks back there. Serral being pushed to his limits once again, but he's up 40 going on 50 army supply, and I just feel like this army for uThermal is on the clock. He's having a tough time saturating behind this. There is no 5th base, by the way. His main and natural mined out. There's no additional command center. It basically comes down to this army right here, and I just can't see it getting it done for your Dragon.
It's just about the fact that, yes, he killed off one base. Great. What about all the rest of them? What about everything else Serral has? And uThermal knows that he doesn't really have enough to push forward, so he just starts to back up. He re-sieges because he sees the army of Ravagers making their way forward, so he needs to try and prevent them from just obliterating everything. But here we go, another Roach counterattack pulling him further back, and uThermal is still in this awkward spot, but I mean, the saving grace is he's still alive. I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah. The saving grace is that he's still alive?
Well, I mean, I thought he was gonna just immediately lose with that kind of, like, the Broodlords and everything else there. I actually thought he was gonna lose that engagement.
You're such a pure soul for your Dragon. I really, commentating with you is like walking through a very beautiful field. Just like it. But I think what you were getting at is the time has kind of come. The depot wall is not remade over here. There's no defenses. The 4th base is basically the sole source of income. And even that, I feel like Serral's really respecting him. I think he can stay move and kind of win the game, and maybe he's realizing that right now. But I guess tanks on high ground are pretty good too. No, right? No.
Well, I don't think Serral can easily push into this without any other support. There's 5 or like 4 siege tanks, Liberators, some Cyclones to buffer.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm looking at this army. I'm like, where is the 118 army supply? Oh, 5 Broodlords and 2 Vipers are coming out. Okay. All right. And now the anti-air is really low, right? It's what, the 4 Vikings or so? 2?
Yeah, 2 Vikings, 3 Liberators. That's pretty much it. He's making 2 more Vikings at a time. Does he even have a second starport? No, it's just 1 starport. Okay, well that does explain why he has had some trouble making some of those Vikings. But like, you know, the weird thing is, it feels a lot like Serral just makes all of his Corruptors into Broodlords every single time. So there's actually not that much killing the Vikings outside just the Queens, and Queens don't exactly kill Vikings that quickly.
Fair point. Absolutely fair point. I think the scary thing is there's actually creep right outside the 4th because it's just been allowed to be kind of sit there.
Yep.
So the Queens can get there to do it if we do, but it's going to be uThermal being aggressive again. And most of his army, by the way, is Cyclones, I guess we should point out. But here come the Broodlords. And this number of Broodlords is the not messing around kind. Like, you cannot fight this on the ground. You need... The Vikings can go to work on this, and I agree with what you said for your Dragon. Queens aren't the best counter to this, but I feel like you're 4 or 5 Corruptors away and this number of Queens from having a shut them down kind of army. And you're going to donate a Viking, or at least a little bit of it. Tunneling claws now too. All right, Serral, he's starting to style here.
I mean, he's definitely got some of the resources to work with. He's starting to build up that bank at this point, and starting to reestablish that kind of more center left-hand base. Thor's being made, okay. Thor's can be okay versus Broodlords in like the right situation.
Yep.
And hey, he's catching a lot of these Roaches. The Roach's not even going to be able to really snag a siege tank here, so that is a nice little trade there for uThermal.
He was opening up room. I mean, he wanted more from it, to your point, but he's now got 8 Corruptors coming out, and those are going to be your anti-air Corruptors. If he makes all those guys into Broodlords, then I'm going to freak out a little bit, but...
He just goes up to 17 and 20 Broodlords.
Let's just make all the Broodlords.
That would be a little bit troubling.
I think so.
Well, 2 more starports being added on. uThermal has also been able to secure a little bit of space for this right-hand base. There's actually a single Roach Brood over here. He is making that into a planetary fortress. But if he can find a way, which is gonna be hard, it's definitely not gonna be easy, but if he can find a way to defend both that left-hand 4th base and that top right-hand 5th base, while he gets up these starports, I'm starting to become a bit of a believer.
Agreed. I think that would be the beginnings of what you would need to do. Both players are maxed out. Army supply is slightly in favor of Serral, as it's worth mentioning, by the way, uThermal has 76 SCVs. It's something a lot of Terrans wouldn't do. I feel like the reason he had that is because this has been a high-octane, very aggressive match back and forth. So even when you pointed out the 1 starport, it's not like that was a super conscious choice he made. He just kind of was hoping to end the game earlier. So he's finding himself with a little bit of odd things like that.
Dodging out those corrosive vials, getting some decent... I mean, Cyclones versus just pure Roaches that are not really closing the gap can trade pretty well. So he's finding little bits and pieces of damage. He's killing off some drones that are trying to mine on these far north mineral patches. But looks like the Roaches finally closed the distance, and they are going to be able to take care of most of these Cyclones.
Yeah, I can't tell if he was just straight up donating the Cyclones. I think he might have been, because he actually himself has a little bit of a bank too. Now there's a weird number of tanks over here. Now on the left side of the map is the real story, though. This is the Doomsday push.
Thor's actually pushing back quite a few of those Corruptors, though. I think he kills off 1 or 2 of them. The Vipers are going to be the big scary proposition here for Serral to make use of, but is uThermal just... Where is the rest of his army? He's got to have more than this, right?
He's caught an awkward spot. Fear Dragon, he was making some Ravens. He was going for the energy upgrade on them. I believe it's not the Caduceus reactor.
Corvid reactor.
You know what? It started with the C. I came close. Thank you very much. It's brownie points there. This is just an orbital. It's not a very defensible position, and uThermal's going to pick up and move back, and I think that is a hard choice, but the correct one. He's going to try to get work done over here.
This is kind of like the fun place that we get to go to where we see a mech army that's usually pretty immobile starting to try and outposition a Broodlord army with Spore Crawlers, which is even more immobile.
I just like how delicate their footprint, their little...
Ooh. Man, I really thought he was going to siege with these siege tanks in range of the hatchery, like a little bit further to the right, but now he doesn't have enough time because the Broodlords are going to be there pretty soon. I thought he was going to maybe be able to snag a hatchery kill or something there.
Yeah, but he does get for himself another expansion above this. It's getting pooped on by an Overlord, but it's still an expansion.
Yeah, as the game goes on, though, those Broodlords, if you're uThermal and you're trying to play this sort of more roundabout, outposition your opponent sort of game, and you're just expanding closer and closer to your opponent, that becomes harder and harder to do.
Show me the Ravens, Mr. Fear Dragons. I think they're a surprise.
3? We got 3 Ravens.
Well, that is a surprise. I was expecting more.
It's a surprise just for the wrong person. Hey, there's an anti-armor missile covering some of these units now. I'd say anti-armor missiles don't pair as well with, units like the siege tanks, or Hellions can be okay, I guess, with them. It's really those Cyclones, but even his Cyclone count has fallen quite a bit because he sacks so many of them.
And he's making a lot of Liberators, by the way. That's kind of his answer for this. He does have pretty darn good upgrades. Actually, it's 2 air attack, so that is not bad. He has not started the 3rd, which is too bad, but otherwise pretty good.
13 Liberators. I mean, yeah, if you go for the anti-armor missile with those, pair them up with the Liberators, you can obliterate Broodlords and Corruptors, actually. But
pretty much everything.
Yeah, except for the ground units. Those still become a little bit of a problem then.
Yeah. I think you just go into Liberation mode, and they're pretty good at that, too. And now he's going to try to retake this base again. Gets a couple of tanks with the Corrosive Bile. It's interesting that Serral's playing this so safe is the part that I'm kind of baffled by. I felt like he, for a while now, could have just had a pretty big swarm. But when you get into this Broodlord army, like you talked about, it's the army that's immobile. It wins every fight, but it just kind of bubbles around both sides of the map.
Okay, well now he's finding a couple of these stores for relatively free, and that's going to be some nice damage. Can use these Broodlings to keep... No, doesn't
go,
really
Serral. Much. Just go. What are we doing?
Yeah, I kind of was... Okay, he's going to move forward to the siege, or the...
Oh, the scan.
I mean, he's got the extra orbitals to work with, Jeff. I mean, he went for a 4th with his orbital.
No, I'm just laughing because I think the 3 roaches above drew his attention over to it, and then he saw the sand kind of moving around with the guys underneath. So then he's like, yeah, okay, you're trying to burrow underneath me. Kind of funny.
Okay, finally adding on a few more Ravens, going up to 5. It seems like it's just going to be for some light anti-armor missiles. Not really going super heavy into that sort of old school Raven style where you just say, man, I get a ton of these. Anti-armor missile really not doing the damage it used to, but okay, here we go. Liberators are here. Anti-armor missile on a majority of the Broodlords. There they are, and suddenly all of these Broodlords looking very dead, but the parasitic bombs looking really strong as well.
Yeah, I would say so. There goes the fleet, and with it the game. uThermal taps out, and Serral is going to return us to normalcy. We expected him to win, but it went to game 3. It was a really nice set here. uThermal on Redshift, making it interesting, trying to make that mech happen. But Serral.
I mean, Serral looked really strong in that game and was ahead for so much of it, but uThermal put up a hell of a fight. He was that guy that just didn't really go down. I know you were talking about how Serral didn't really, he was being very safe and defensive about it, but at the same time, I can kind of understand it. If you take a bad engagement there, things can go very sour very quickly versus a mech army.
Well, I like it too, to be honest with you. It's game 3. If he loses that, he goes to the decider match. But for Serral, he did feel like he was ahead, but he has an army kind of composition where if you lose it, you're way behind, right? If you lose 8 Broodlords and a bunch of Corruptors because it's just a couple of huge Thor hits or some weird Widowmine trap or something weird, then the game gets really bad for you. So Serral, obviously the better player than In Control, says, you know what, Jeff? No, I'm not going to try to end this real quick. I'm going to make sure I get the win. And he did.
Yep.
Good for him.
Makes it out first of his group as a lot of people expected. Now, if we take a look, we do still have that lower bracket match that finished up.
The middle bracket match.
The middle bracket match. The middle bracket match that finished up, where we did see Hearthstone advance over Denver. So that does set us up for our final match of the European WCS Challenger Series. It is going to be Hearthstone versus uThermal, the rematch. We'll see you guys there.